Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. Okay, Andy, Jessica Jones, go.
Like it.
Right?
My favorite thing was the tweet that somebody did saying, what is up with Jessica Jones and all these amazing female characters, and all the male characters are just eye candy? Oh, so that's what it's like.
That's so good.
It is. It is.
What a great show.
Yep.
Have you run into anybody who didn't?
No, I haven't. I mean, I haven't talked to too many people about it, but everybody I have talked to seems to think that it's a pretty solid show.
Me too. I don't leave my house, but
but the mailman, when I
so
talk to
far,
him,
100% of the people I've talked to, which is you, sample set is giant, really like it. I think it's fantastic, and I think that it is totally worth seeing. I think I liked it better than Daredevil, but I also really, really like Daredevil.
Yeah, I do too. And I think you said it best, saying that Marvel and the villains that they have on Netflix shows are the most fascinating, complex, wonderful villains that they have anywhere in their universe.
Right? I agree with that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just fantastic. And D'Onofrio and who's the guy who played the Purple Man? What's his name?
Doctor Who? Tennant. It's David Tennant, right?
Is that who that was?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm cutting this part.
It's totally him.
I should have seen that. I did not recognize him as Doctor Who at all. I'm not a big Doctor Who fan. Like I'm not either. I tried to get into it, and I kind of. I'm sure it's a show that I would really love if I got past like episode 4. But I never know how to start. Like what is episode 4 of Doctor Who?
Right,
all
these
these
different
back
all
series?
the way
Yeah,
back.
I'm not going to go there. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
So,
too much.
Too much. Bridge too far. So I really, really like that. And since we're on the Netflix bandwagon, can we talk about Crouching Tiger?
Absolutely.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Sword of Destiny trailer dropped just as we are recording this on YouTube. It'll be in the show notes. It looks so good. It's everything that I loved about the original Crouching Tiger, which I adored, and so much, but updated, right? It's just looks mo better.
Yes, it does.
It does offer Michelle Yeoh a chance to come back, and Harry Shum Jr. straight off of his run on Glee. Man, that dude can move. He's been in a lot of other stuff, but this is I'm pretty stoked about this one. And this is a film, not a series.
That's what it looks like. Yeah. And does this have anything to do with the? I guess this is the same as the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, The Green Legend. Yeah,
it's a title. They're doing some title swapping. I can't figure out because the poster that was released is Sword of Destiny, but
and the trailer. But
IMDb has it as Green Legend with the original title as Sword of Destiny. So I don't know what they're making of that, but it sounds like they landed on Sword of Destiny, which is a better title.
Yes.
What is a Green Legend? It's sickness.
It's
you blow your nose. You blow your nose. What do you have? The Green Legend. That's what you have there. You have an infection.
It's better than when you get the John Legend.
I blew my nose and I had the John Legend.
I think that's called derailing.
That's pretty good.
Called.
That's pretty good. Let's do it. Let's tell the people where we're from right now.
Okay, where are we from?
This is The Next Reel on rashpixel.fm. Everybody, I'm Pete Wright, and that over there is Andy Nelson.
Hello, hello, hello.
And we spoil movies. Tonight on the show, the second in our Harold Ramis series with the 1981 Army goof, Stripes. Before we get into that, you should learn more about us at thenextreel.com. Subscribe to the show on iTunes or follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Reel. And if you've ever really been into old school 80s mud wrestling, you're the sort of grunt who should join us at The Next Reel's Instagram, #PonyPrize, #Guess the Movie Challenge.
And with that, let's hop into our heavily armed recreational vehicle and head on over to Scotland to check in with that TNR Second Lieutenant, Stephen Smart.
Hey guys, this week's movie was The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert from 1994, directed and written by Stephen Elliott and starring Hugo Weaving, Guy Pearce and Terence Stamp. This week's winner is at No T.O., who nailed it on Image 2 and is entered once again into the Pony Prize hat. As always, a new challenge starts Friday, so thanks guys, and see you later.
And we got some follow-up from our dear friend of the show, Ben Lott, writes in with our Blot Spot.
Don't back down, Andy. Thank you, Ben.
Traitor.
Glad you're on my side. The biggest drawback of Caddyshack is that it is titled Caddyshack. There's not one funny moment that is a direct act of the caddies. Everything good comes from the players. In fact, it felt silly that they even left the catty stuff in to attempt to give a narrative structure, because it doesn't work at all. There's never a cohesive story, and there doesn't need to be in this kind of madcap comedy. All the comedians were hilarious, and I loved their scenes so much, particularly Chevy Chase. However, every scene with a caddy in it made me say, can we get back to the good stuff? Your rank 52 out of 213. My rank 102 out of 213.
I don't know what to make of that. Well, actually, I do. And I will tell you, in comparison to tonight's film, I have more to make of that. I look forward to continuing this conversation. Our friend of the show, Per Johansson, writes in from Sweden. Fun where Lou threw away the guns from the broken bubblegum machine. Not directly politically correct, but quite funny sometimes. Fun end sequence. 5 out of 10 sheep, he gives it. Apparently the word for sounds like far. It has a funny accent. I don't know what to make of that. But far equals sheep in Swedish.
I bet they love hearing you try to say
I am a mess. I am a mess. Andy, let's do trailers.
So I'm super excited about my trailer, Pete.
Tell me why.
It's the name attached to the making of it, and that is Shane Black.
Oh, we do like Shane Black. Shane Black. Shane Black.
Shane Black.
Oh, man.
Early mornings. Yeah, it is... he did Iron Man 3, and I can't fault him for that.
Well, you can try.
I could try. It's a franchise, it's all part of the universe that one was tied to. But Shane Black, he's a great writer who started with Lethal Weapon back in the late 80s and has gone on to just write lots of great stuff since then, a very big action sort of stuff. And he started directing with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang back in 2005, and I really enjoy what he brings to the table, both as a writer and a director. This is his next action foray. Nice Guys with Russell Crowe as a what is he? Kind of a hitman, I guess you could say.
He's like a collector.
Fix-it guy.
He's a fixer.
Right. And he is collecting from Private Eye, played by Ryan Gosling. And they're investigating the apparent suicide of a fading porn star in 1970s L.A., and they uncover a conspiracy. Not much of that actually is in the trailer, other than seeing a nice little hint of Kim Basinger in there. But what we do see is just a lot of over-the-top action, a lot of comedy, some great moments between Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe, just tons of funny stuff. The squeals and screams that Ryan Gosling emits in the trailer just had me on the floor in stitches. It's just so funny to hear someone like him just screaming like a
he's a child. He screams this really high-pitched scream. It's hysterical.
Yes, a child is better than a pig. That's brought a total different reference to it in my head. But yes, he screams like a little child, and it's great.
Yeah, it looks really, really funny. And, in particular, seeing Gosling not just scream as a child, but he's, I'm used to seeing him as we just saw him in Drive, right? He's a little bit more of that sort of take charge, subdued guy, and watching him I think he is coming out for me, as one of the great character actors. And I think we're going to remember him that way. When we do our Ryan Gosling series in 2000, what do you think, 50?
24, I think.
50?
20, is it that far out?
Yeah, right. I think we're going to be looking back at him as one of these guys.
He is, and this looks really fun, and it ties in well because we're doing a Shane Black series next year, which I'm quite excited about.
What did we include? We got. What's the deal with Predator? What do you know about Predator? This new Predator thing.
The new Predator.
He is writing and I think. I'm not sure if it's because he was in Predator. He was Hawkins in the original Predator. He was
right
in it, and he is writing and doing a sequel to Predator. But I don't know if it's a direct sequel to Predator or if it's part of the Predator universe. Like if he's going back to 1984 and he's doing a sequel to the original, kind of subverting the universe. I am all in favor of that.
Well, the interesting thing is none of those films really tie together that much.
Yeah, weird,
Like
right?
Predator 2 is really just a different Predator coming to Earth and having its own little battle against Danny Glover. So it could be interesting. It does say on IMDb that it is a sequel to the 87 sci-fi film Predator. So maybe it is more of a direct sequel to that one.
Yeah,
so
I hope so.
Piques my curiosity.
Me too. So anyway, very excited about your trailer. Very excited about Shane Black.
Yeah, and that one comes out in May. So check for it when the spring rolls around.
My trailer, Andy, hotbed of controversy, don't you think?
Yes.
In Nerd Sphere?
Yes, it is.
This is, of course, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. The new trailer dropped last week, and we get to see a lot more of the fighting between Henry Cavill and Batfleck, and we are introduced to the fantastic Wonder Woman, who my daughter says, man, she looks great. She needs to wear more clothes. Of Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. I'm not kidding. I'm very excited about this movie now. I wasn't before, but I was told in our Slack chat that I have become increasingly unforgiving about the movies that we watch. That is what I've been told.
You? No.
And so I am trying to be more open-minded than I have been. I was ready. I was armed to hate when this trailer came out. I was armed to look at this as the injustice of what they are doing to the universe and how could they, and I was really armed for that, but I have decided that I am going to celebrate it, and I think they look good. I even think that the Superman Batman meet cute with Lex Luthor, I found that charming, and I am all in favor of trying to get to know a Lex Luthor with hair. There you have it. That is what I think. So this film is it's directed, as you all, I'm sure, well know, by Zack Snyder, and of course stars Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, and Amy Adams as Lois Lane. What do you think? Really?
You know, I've never been a Superman fan. The Christopher Reeve Superman 1 and 2 I enjoy. But the character himself, I've never really gotten into. I really haven't liked any of the recent films. This one, though, I don't know. I guess I like what they're doing here. I think that it's actually an interesting angle to kind of bring these two together and a great way to kind of set up the Justice League of America. So
and they are throwing a ton of characters in this. I mean, now it's rumored that Ezra Miller is going to be playing the Flash, and of course we already know and have seen the promotional photos of Aquaman, played by Jason Momoa, and General Zod is back as a dead guy and apparently playing Doomsday. I don't know if he's actually doing the motion capture, but what I understand is that's how they're going to introduce Doomsday.
It's like a Zombie Zod Doomsday, right?
Zombie Zod Doomsday. It's actually one word. It's not even hyphenated. A friend of mine, I was talking about how I actually am looking forward to this on Facebook, and a friend of mine posted a side-by-side picture of Doomsday next to a troll from Middle Earth in the Battle of the Five Armies, and they're like at the same angle, and they look identically. It's ridiculous how close they look.
That's funny.
But I think this is step one. He's going to change Doomsday.
Yeah, I grew up with the Super Friends, and I always loved that world. As cheesy as those old cartoons were, I had a great time watching them. And this is DC trying to figure out how to do their own Marvel thing, and I like that they're trying to figure it out. I really was not a fan of Zack Snyder's first foray into this, but I don't know. I think that it looks like it could be fun. Sure, the trailer might give a lot of stuff away, but at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I'm really not vested in the universe that much, so I'm just looking at it as an opportunity to go have a good time.
Andy, that's remarkably progressive of you.
Yeah, I'm trying to be.
I am genuinely surprised at how open you are to having fun at this movie.
I try. You've inspired me. What can I say?
There you go. Andy, I want you to know, if we ever get into really heavy combat, I'll be right behind you every step of the way.
I'm sure there are a lot of ways I've gone that you haven't.
Are you stuck in a dead-end job?
We're going to be killed!
Oh, no.
Just keep your hands on the wheel. Slow down.
Not killed. Personal problems got you down. You can't go. All the plants are going to die. Well, the U.S. Army can turn your life around.
Before I knew it, she was walking next to me, singing, do I did it, dum did it, do.
Join a whole new breed of professionals. Learn what it's like to feel like a man. Get your body into incredible shape.
Muscles, I love those muscles.
Master important career skills.
What are you going to do with that?
This and this. Who's your friend? Who's your buddy? I am, aren't I?
And represent your country in foreign lands.
Gentlemen, we are in Germany!
So if you're a man who likes to take charge of your own life,
Boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka, boom.
Stripes, Andy, 1981. It's a military comedy film, or so I'm told, directed by Ivan Reitman, starring Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, Warren Oates, PJ Soles, Sean Young, and John Candy, along with a lot of great first-time actors who are in this. And they have lines, some of them.
Some of them. Yes, some of them do.
I was very excited to watch this film. After watching Caddyshack, which I liked a lot more than you, I think.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
I mean, I did. And I actually found the heart in Caddyshack and the narrative that apparently I am alone doing that. I recognize that I may be hoodwinked by the humor, and I am looking at it in a more positive light. I remember Stripes really fondly. I loved this movie. I had such a crush on PJ Soles, and I watched this movie a lot when I was a kid. And so now I've watched it again as an adult, and I'm not as fond of it as I was. Does that make me a bad person?
No. I had never seen it, as you may recall.
Yeah.
Or I had seen bits. I had seen the Razzle dazzle scene, and I'd seen the mud wrestling scene, and that was the extent of my experience with Stripes. And I don't know. I really struggled. I felt like, is this a film I would have liked more had I seen it when I was younger? According to you, it doesn't sound like that's the case. But I mean, I do have friends who, this is their Caddyshack. And
yes.
And so, I don't know. I feel like I'm an old stick in the mud, but having just seen it for the first time, I watched it and I'm like, it's got some stuff that was fun to watch. But for the most part, I just never felt like it gelled. I never felt like the story was really as cohesive as I was really hoping it would have been.
I watched the movie with my wife last night, and she had never seen it, and we were actually in a really nice environment. I have my TV, the big TV. I, for the first time, mounted it above our fireplace. I hooked up the new surround speakers. Everything was just perfect. It was the perfect environment to laugh at this movie. You could see it well, you could hear it well. There were no problems, right? And her first comment as the movie wrapped up was, "Wow. They really should have ended that movie after they left the base and graduated from their the
boot
second
camp,
half
graduated
of boot camp.
from boot camp.
Everything else is a disaster. It is a disaster. It's ridiculous, and I just didn't connect with it. And I realized I've seen the movie like 1,000 times. I'll bet I've fallen asleep 999 times during the last half of the film. It is a complete snooze.
Well, what's funny is, having seen that scene in the past before, I always assumed that was the climax of the film.
Yeah.
It feels like, this is the story of this group of misfits who struggle through boot camp, and they finally pull their stuff together, so they are able to do this impressive little routine and actually pass and make it through. That was always kind of my impression of it. Watching it and then realizing, oh, it's not the end. There's still a whole act to go, and you see this whole attempt to protect and then rescue this vehicle and then their troops that get stuck in Czechoslovakia. It just was an exercise of the absurd.
It was. Now I also was not a huge fan of the beginning this time around, and this is me recognizing the irony of trying to become less unforgiving and less critical about a movie that's so close to my heart. But here's my contention: that the comedy in this film suffers at the hand of really poor editing. And I think it's best illustrated in the scene where the two guys go to actually join the army, right? I mean, they go to the office, the recruitment office, and they are having this conversation with the recruiter, and every line seems shot and edited together in such a way that there is a very overtly deliberate reaction to every line of comedy, and it's just not fast enough, right? It's just not fast enough for us to hear these lines put together in such a way that allows us to string together the joke without any awkwardness. It feels super awkward. What do you think? Am I alone?
I don't think you're necessarily alone. I had a hard time deciding if it was the editing or just the scripting, or sometimes I really felt like considering this is a Harold Ramis series, this is kind of funny to say, but I really had a struggle watching Harold Ramis on screen because he felt like he was always smiling. I mean, he's kind of, I guess, the straight man to Bill Murray, but he felt like he always was aware of the joke that was happening, and he always seemed like he was kind of smiling as if he was reacting to it, not completely in the scene. And that was another thing that I felt every time I was watching it, or every time I saw him on screen, was just feeling like he wasn't really in the scene. He was kind of reacting to what was happening within the scene.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think that may be a function of him not having done much on-screen work prior to this, right? I mean, for feature films, like he felt like a bit of an awkward actor.
He did. And I think that the two pair together. I mean, I think that there's something to be said for the editing just not quite being paced properly. Now, I mean, some of that could be the pacing of a film edited in 1981 for an audience back then who wasn't used to things kind of cut as fast as we are now. And now when we watch something that has the comedy timing of something that's that old, it might feel a little more slow paced.
Do you think? I mean, really?
I think there's something to that. But then I was going to say, that being said, I think there are plenty of comedies from that era that I still find funny.
Yes, but I also don't feel like, I mean, this was cut together in a way where these comic lines in this comic scene, I mean, you drive a truck through these things. It was just paced so weirdly. And as if you really get the feeling that they wanted to leave room for the actors or for the characters to stop and look at each other and appreciate their own humor. That's what I kept finding in this thing. Like, it just was not paced very well. I think there's another piece to that, which is the use of music and potentially just sound, the overall soundscape. But there are a number of sequences that felt really dated in the use of music, that they found a theme. There were two major themes, right, in this film. Right, the heroic kind of Western military march. Mm-hmm. And the other was the... This was the Wingers theme, right? The kind of rag. And those two themes were used so much. Yeah, they became really tiresome. Once you start to hear it, it's like you just want them to shut up. And yet, when they're not used in some of these scenes, that you just feel like there should be some music kind of driving this thing forward. There should be some sort of soundscape driving this scene forward, something to show us to keep us into it. Because when the silence hits between the comic lines, I found myself just really frustrated that I wasn't getting it fast enough.
Yeah, the music, I don't know. I have issues with. I think some of it just boils down to my opinions of Ivan Reitman and the way he puts a film together. Perhaps
talk about that.
First, let me jump into Elmer Bernstein, because you were talking about music. I really like the themes in this film.
Absolutely agree.
I think Elmer Bernstein is an amazing composer. He's done tons of great stuff. And I think that in this era of his career, he started tapping into doing some comedies. And I think he does a great job with the comedies that he was doing around here. That being said, I do feel that having such a small number of actual themes feels like it gets really repetitive. It's like the same thing my big problem with Last of the Mohicans. It's like the theme is great, but geez, if you play it throughout the entire movie, the same theme. It just really makes you hate it by the time you get to the end.
Yes.
And that's how I felt here. It's like I did enjoy it, but give me something new, because otherwise it doesn't build. It doesn't take me anywhere. It's just the music that's just playing. Yeah, I do think that there were times where it felt like they needed music that they didn't have any, and it's just like those are times, come up with another theme, put something else in there, Elmer.
Yeah.
But so I did really enjoy the music despite my issues with the way that it was used. But yeah, Ivan Reitman, I mean, I enjoy some of his films. I mean, he's directed Ghostbusters. I mean, he's directed, what else has he directed? He did...
well,
I don't know. Dave, I really like Dave.
Yeah, right. I mean, Meatballs was one of those that it makes me want to watch again, because I feel like it between sort of Meatballs, Stripes leading into Ghostbusters, I think we would see a lot of learning going on with Ivan Reitman. But then again, I also loved Kindergarten Cop. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, Kindergarten Cop was fun, actually. I mean, I haven't seen that in ages, but I do remember enjoying it. I actually, not having ever seen Meatballs, I actually just watched it for the first time as well, just to kind of compare it with Stripes. And
not good.
I really, really didn't care for it at all. I mean, Bill Murray, to me, was really the only reason to watch it. And it was just, I guess it wasn't really what I was expecting either. Not that I really knew what to expect, but I watched it and I was like, this is kind of a very low, middling.
How does it compare to, and I know you're not a fan of Wet Hot American Summer either. How does it compare to that?
I've never seen
Oh, you've never seen it. All right. All right.
No.
Well, I think the first sort of serious adult comedy that I saw of Ivan Reitman was Legal Eagles, and I actually remember that fondly, but I wonder if I should not watch it again.
I'm curious to rewatch that one. I don't know. I think that he is a director who may have found a better career path in producing. Some of the work that he's produced, I think I like more than some of the stuff that he has actually directed.
Did you see Draft Day?
I didn't see Draft Day, but I didn't hear much good about it.
No, me neither. It just came and went.
But I mean, he produced Up in the Air with his son directing. I love that film.
Mm-hmm.
He produced Private Parts. I really liked that film. I think that, I guess he's just hit and miss all around, because some of the stuff that he's produced, I don't think is that great. So he's a director who I think was kind of tapped into the same circles as Harold Ramis back in the early parts of his career. And I think that they kind of found ways to work together well for the time period. Animal House, Meatballs, Stripes, those were they have a similar tone throughout all of them. And I guess maybe it's just his sensibilities just don't jive with me. Maybe that's it.
He's producing a 2017 launch of Baywatch on film, right? You know that?
I did not know that.
It's going to star Alexandra Daddario, who was most recently in San Andreas as the daughter. She's also in the Percy Jackson movies, and The Rock and Zac Efron.
Too funny.
Is it? Is it funny?
Yeah. It's sad funny.
It's better.
It's kind of that sad funny.
Yeah. So anyhow, I think I'm with you. It's a little bit hit or miss, and I don't know. I think there's enough that I do like of Ivan Reitman. I think I give him enough credibility or enough sort of emotional credit from my experience with Ghostbusters that I'm kind of willing to let it go. But so this one was frustrating in that regard.
Yeah.
So I always feel like I go in high, with high hopes, and I'm a little disappointed. But you're right, man. If it's in the family, Up in the Air is obviously a big favorite around here.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I read a quote from Bill Murray who says that this film was very much like life on barracks making this movie. It was cold. It was this was in the context of him regretting making a film where he carried a machine gun all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Right. How well do you think it captured the experience of living on the base? Like, I have zero experience living on an Army base, zero, and yet I still find it a little bit incredulous that they're driving tanks like up to the door of the barracks where they live. Do they still do that? Is that a thing?
That to me was a perfect example of Hollywood filmmakers getting access from the Department of Defense and getting kind of a partnership with them, getting access to Fort Knox so they can actually film all of those scenes and saying, hey, let's play with all the toys that they're letting us use.
All of them at once.
Right. Let's put all these tanks here, and then let's move them here. Let's have them driving here and here.
This felt very much like the Star Wars Episode 4 re-release. Like, more dewbacks, It's like...
Exactly. It's very funny to see exactly what they were doing there. I will say production-wise, Ivan Reitman did say it was great working with the Department of Defense because these military people are trained to do what you tell them, and they do it very efficiently. So it was great being able to say, okay, well, let's get everybody here, and they would actually get there really quickly, relatively speaking, and be ready for the shot. And that's not always the experience with the Hollywood folk. So I thought that was pretty funny.
The film was originally slated for Cheech and Chong. This was going to be a Cheech and Chong go join the army film.
Right. They wrote it as such. He came up with the idea during Meatballs, or I think during the premiere of Meatballs, and he pitched it to the studio, and they loved it. They signed off that day to go do it. But then they had a problem getting Cheech and Chong to actually agree to do it without wanting complete control over the project, and so that ended that decision to get them, and they decided, hey, well, let's write it for these guys. Let's write it for Bill Murray, and Bill Murray wanted Harold Ramis, and there you go. Now you got the two of them.
Yeah, it was, and it seemed like there was some contention around having Harold Ramis on screen, and which may have been, as we've already said, rightful. But I think it was Bill Murray who said, "I'm not going to do this without Harold Ramis."
It's funny. I read a lot of different reviews about that, and everybody seems to love Harold Ramis in the film. So maybe it's just us.
And I don't. It's not like I don't. I just think he looks like a very sort of new actor. I mean, you don't have that same kind of. He just doesn't have that same sort of confidence on screen that he demonstrated in Ghostbusters. That it just felt very much more like a Bill Murray movie with Harold Ramis next to him than it does a buddy movie with Bill Murray and Harold Ramis.
Yeah, it feels like he's doing sketch still.
Yes,
like he's Saturday Night Live reading the prompter off the screen. Like that's how he feels through this.
Does the extended cut make this film better? I watched the cut I was introduced to in the 80s, and I loved then, and it was the one I was most familiar with, but I've never seen the extended cut. How did it make it better?
It's that's the one version that I now can say that I have seen. But they have this wonderful feature on the disc where you can have a little icon pop up every time it's a new scene. So I watched it with that, so at least I would know what was new and what wasn't. The stuff that I was always kind of bored with, like the scene when they go on a kind of a weekend leave, I guess, and head on down, ending up in the jungles of Colombia. Just the two of them, Bill Murray and Harold Ramis, and then they kind of work their way back after having been kind of held hostage briefly by some jungle, some guerrillas out in the jungle. It was pretty much nonsense. Like I can see why they cut it, and in fact, that's how most of the scenes felt.
Starts to sound like volunteers.
It just didn't work. I really felt like they should have just left all that on the cutting room floor and just left it as bonus material you could have just watched as outtakes. They didn't need to put it back into the movie because I felt like it really slowed it down. It was about 18 extra minutes of stuff, and I just don't think it needed any of that.
It was all right. So that takes it over 2 hours.
Just over. It was like 2:04, I think.
Yeah, it should never have been longer than about an hour and 5 minutes.
That was the reduced cut.
Yeah, they should do a reduced cut.
I think I only know of the Coens actually doing a director's cut that was shorter. Than the original cut.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about Harold Ramis. Bill Murray. Bill Murray is the guy for me that makes this film funny because it's his bits, his speeches, his monologues that are what stick in my mind, and they are what elevate this film to something that is memorable, something that is imminently quotable, something that I laugh more about than I do at.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Murray is the reason to watch this movie. I mean, he has a lot of great lines, a lot of great moments throughout the film, and it's really fun to watch him do it. And it's really fun to watch him play off of Warren Oates, who is just, I mean, I will say, he's fantastic in this film for not having as big a part, but I mean, he's great as was it Hunka?
Hulka. Sergeant Hulka, the big toe.
Saying Hunka Burning Love, apparently completely different. But yeah, Hulka burgers, right?
Hulka burger, yeah.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's in some of Sam Peckinpah's films in the 60s and 70s, some of Monty Hellman's films. He's just one of those guys who has a great look, and he's been in a lot of great stuff. And then right toward the end of his career, you see him in something like this. And he is just so fun to watch, just, kind of being this drill sergeant in this silly comedy. And he plays it really well.
Yeah, I think he does. And, he makes it funny. He even makes it funny when he's not around. I think, when he gets blown up by the rogue mortar, and we lose him for a little while. Once, at least for me, once I've seen the film, he's the thing I'm looking forward to bringing back. And then they don't really use him terribly effectively for the second half of the film, which is unfortunate.
It is. It's unfortunate, and that ties into some of the problems with that last part is you've got this whole storyline with these guys who basically steal the vehicle to go on a joyride and go pick up their ladies over in Germany. And their troop has to go out to try to find them. And their troop gets captured by these Russians in Czechoslovakia. They are heroes, go to save them along with Hulka. And they do save them and they get everybody out. But then they're all of a sudden the heroes at the end. It's like, why are they heroes?
Why?
And it was nice seeing Hulka and them kind of working together to kind of help make it all happen. And I did, despite my problems with the ending, I did actually like seeing that final moment between Hulka and Bill Murray's character. I thought that was actually quite just a nice end to their relationship.
Well, it was the Mr. Holland kind of moment of the film.
Yeah, exactly. And we kind of needed that. But that being said, just that whole ending was just like, they're clearly, this whole thing is because these guys did something really stupid and illegal. And the fact that all of a sudden everybody's a hero, it seemed so dumb. Mm-hmm. And for the life of me, I could not figure out what they were doing with the ending of this film. So it was so bothersome.
Some of the sort of ancillary characters I did find really amusing. John Larroquette as Captain Stillman, I crack up at him every time he's on screen.
I did find him funny. If only I could be a loofah or whatever his line was. To be a loofah. That was a great little line. And, just his silliness. I mean, he reminded me of kind of those over the top, silly, like he actually reminded me of the head, I don't know what his role was, the sergeant in the Police Academy movies.
Yes.
Yeah. He kind of had that same sort of sensibility. But he worked really well. So, and this was his first, one of his first films too. So
John Volstad, I think his aide is equally funny, trying to make sense of Larroquette on screen. I think he ends up working really well too.
Yes, he does.
He's got a lot of credits to his name. This is Volstad, and he's one a lot of TV, one I don't know too much of, but he's been in a lot, and his IMDb page is woefully understocked with information.
John Larroquette actually broke his nose during the filming of this. It was the scene when he realizes that the EM50 has been stolen or it's missing. And he turns around and comes running back into the room to report it, and somehow the door got stuck, and he ran right into it and just totally broke his nose, and it was just like spurting blood everywhere out of it. And so that ended that shoot. And actually you see through some of the later scenes in the film, you can actually tell that they had to put makeup on his nose to kind of hide the swelling and everything.
Oh, that's too funny.
So yeah, that was quite a mess on set.
Conrad Dunn as Psycho has been in a lot of stuff. Man, does he become a face you just discover once you see him in this movie?
He is one of those faces that's like, oh yeah, that guy. He's definitely a that guy sort of guy.
And
He sure is.
But it's funny because he definitely has been in a lot of stuff, but it's just like I never would have placed him as that guy.
Totally.
It's like, oh yeah, it's him. So
Yeah,
that's
a lot
funny.
of bit parts. He was good as Psycho. I'm gonna kill you. You touch me, I'm gonna kill you.
I thought that was kind of funny. I don't know if they were intending it to be this way, but considering Robert De Niro's character in Taxi Driver as kind of a vet, it seemed like they were kind of playing with that and going that route for Psycho.
Oh, I think so.
He
Yeah.
was totally like going to be the guy who's driving taxis later in his life.
But the thing that's funny about that is that they gave him this personality of Psycho before he had experienced anything of war. Like he is already PTSD before he has any experience with battle, which I thought was funny. Judge Reinhold, this was his first feature film appearance.
And he gets all of the bits that they felt were the best Cheech and Chong bits from their original draft. He gets all the drug bits.
No, he was funny, but he's no Cheech and Chong.
Well, yeah, I don't think much of Cheech and Chong either, but
right. So you get my point.
Exactly.
He's also no. What was his character in Fast Times? Richmond High. It was he was Brad Hamilton, right? He's also no Brad Hamilton. Like you sort of, I kind of was underwhelmed by Judge Reinhold. I think he learned a lot.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just one of those bit parts that it worked. It works in context of what they were doing at the time. I don't really care much for it now.
John Candy is one of the only soldiers who didn't audition. He was just known, and they liked him, and they put him in the film.
Yeah, and this was one of his, if not his first, like, U.S. breakout film. He had done some other bit parts in films like The Blues Brothers and 1941, but this was a much bigger, meatier part. And actually, I shouldn't say breakout, but it certainly helped get him more parts. Splash was probably more of a breakout for him because he certainly had the bigger part there.
We got to talk about the ladies.
You already mentioned PJ Soles, who I don't think we ever brought her up, but she was in Carrie. She played Norma Watson.
She sure was, and she's really the cult classic kind of horror actress, right? She was in Halloween, she was in Carrie. I mean, she's done
Rock and Roll High School,
right? Sure, she was. What's her name in that film? It was Riff Randall, right. Which was like High School Musical, but better.
Well, you say that now, Pete.
Yeah, right. I'd say,
go put it on.
No, I mean that. I really mean that in every possible way.
Oh, it's so funny.
So she's really got that kind of thing going for her. That was 1979, and according to an interview I saw with her, she says she really appreciated Rock and Roll High School because she knew that would be her last teenage role. And she largely pulled it off as a teenager, but everybody in that film was just sort of ridiculous. And then her very next film was Private Benjamin as Private Wanda Winter. Immediately goes into the military films. So this is her little duet, 1980 Private Benjamin, 1981 Stripes.
It's very funny that Private Benjamin and this came out so close together. It feels like those competing films that studios would have, like Deep Impact and Armageddon, and the two Snow White films and all that sort of stuff. And it's so funny, especially reading the descriptions. And I saw Private Benjamin when I was young, and I really liked it, although I can't remember a thing about it now. But that plot is a sheltered young high society woman joins the United States Army on a whim and finds herself in a more difficult situation than she ever expected. And then Stripes is two friends who are dissatisfied with their jobs decide to join the Army for a bit of fun. Yeah. It's like, gosh, they sound like identical films.
Now, what I remember of Private Benjamin is that it was much more sober, right? I mean, it was funny because Goldie Hawn is funny. But insofar as it was, it took the military part more seriously. Is that how you remember it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they must have, because she and Eileen Brennan were both nominated for Oscars for the film.
Right. It was there was very little madcap.
And then partway through it,
like she graduates and she falls for a guy, or she leaves the military or something. She falls for Armando Sante, and then it turns out he's a communist, and she has to decide, is she going to stay with him or is she going to like report him or something like that. It kind of, military was like the first half, and then the other stuff was the second half. Yeah. I have a pretty poor memory of it myself, but I think that one is, I don't know, it probably holds up a little bit better. We should add that to something. We should put it on some list somewhere. It needs to go on a list. Yes. Sean Young was the other of the two women. Mm-hmm. Lovely Sean Young. She's never been one of my favorites, but she has been in some interesting films, so I'll give her that. And here she's fine. She's fine. She's cute. She matches with Harold Ramis. Like they make a good pairing, because we have to have that kind of madcap pairing scene where they're like teenagers, in the colonel's house, or the general's house. When I watch Sean Young, I can't help but watch her and think about all of the stories that I've heard about how difficult she is to work with. That's kind of where my head goes. Or even like, not even when she's working with somebody, but when she was presenting or announcing the Oscar nominations that one year, and what's his name? Julian Schnabel was nominated for Best Director for your favorite, Diving Bell and the Butterfly. And she was like, who is he? What is this? Why are these people getting nominated? Or like went off on him. It's just so strange. Anyway, it's sort of a ridiculous conceit, like much of the rest of the movie, having these two MPs so overtly trolling for privates. Right, yeah. But it was fine. It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm going to go watch Blade Runner for a change of a palate cleanser. There you go. I liked John Deal in this. I thought he was fun as kind of the idiot. I thought he played that part really well. And I thought he was really good. Like, he and John Candy were a great duo. I actually really liked the two of them on screen together. Dave Thomas pops up in here, the Canadian actor who was Doug in Strange Brew. He is the I don't know what you call him, a referee, at the mud wrestling. Yeah. Is that what you call him? I'm not quite sure. But yes, that is him in there. So I thought it was funny to see him pop up in there. They credit him as the MC. The MC. That's probably a better than ref, I think. Yeah. Because there was a ref, that one of the ladies was in the ring with a whistle. I guess that's true. She would be the ref. Yeah. 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 That was a tough scene to get through. Yeah, it really felt, period, like that seemed to be something that existed back then. I was wondering, can you actually go to a mud wrestling ring anymore? I'm gonna ask the internet right now. Portland mud wrestling. Can you do that? Portland, and you know what? It comes up as something that's look at this, Yelp, best mud wrestling in Portland, Oregon. Wow. How about this? The country is ready for pudding wrestling at Portland's inaugural Pudding Wrestling Massacre. Mud wrestling party on Southeast 72nd and Fur. Yeah, that's about right. That sounds about right. It's about where you'd expect it to happen. And of course, the Reddit thread. Any good mud wrestling in PDX? Oh my goodness. Yeah, no. So apparently that still exists, and that's unfortunate for us as a civilization. The only other thing I was going to mention is that Bill Butler shot it, and we talked about him with Jaws. Oh, that's right. It didn't strike. There was nothing in there that really struck me as just blew me away cinematographically. The only thing that I actually wrote down was there was a beautiful sunset shot with the troop silhouetted as they were walking back, and they were singing like the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines song. Oh, you're right. That was the one shot that's like, ooh, boy, that is a beaut. Just bright orange silhouette. Yeah. That was really great. That to me stood out as like the one thing that was like, yeah, that was worth noting for that moment. You know, we should probably talk about the writing credits. We talked about Ivan Reitman, but this thing was written by Len Bloom, Daniel Goldberg, and Harold Ramis after he sort of joined the team. And Len Bloom, he wrote Heavy Metal and one of the most clever, more recent films that I really like in terms of just family, he did Over the Hedge. That was fun. Which I thought was really, really fun. He also has his name attached to the most recent Pink Panther, 2006. Poor thing.
Private Parts, we talked. You already brought that one up. And then back in the day, Heavy Metal, Space Hunter, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, Meatballs 3, but only for for characters because he had written Meatballs before Stripes.
Right.
Dan Goldberg is also responsible for, at least as a producer, and many more credits as a producer than as a writer, as a producer of the Hangover movies, which I actually quite liked.
I like the first one, so at least there's that.
So we have that in common, which is nice.
Yes.
So any comments about these guys as writers?
No, not really. Other than I was going to say that Dan Goldberg really, I don't think writing was what he generally did. He did do writing a few times, but he really is kind of seems like one of those guys who's kind of just an old friend of Ivan Reitman's, and the two of them seem to be pretty attached at the hip as far as working together on a lot of projects over their careers.
And he did direct only once, Feds, with Rebecca De Mornay and Mary Gross in 1988.
I remember that one.
You do? You remember? I don't.
I remember
the
trailers. I didn't watch it. I remember it coming out.
How did it do?
This film did really well for itself. This film, we had talked about a lot of 1981 films. We did a whole series on 1981 films, and if you recall, none of them were in the top 20 of the grossing films. We picked some rather obscure titles. I think American Werewolf in London was our highest grossing.
Yeah, right.
And that came in at number 23. Time Bandits, that was in a different Terry Gilliam series. That came in at number 10 for 1981. And, of course, Raiders of the Lost Ark came in at number 1. This film actually came in at number 5 for the year. It did really well for itself. This film cost $10 million to make, which is about $25.6 million in today's dollars. It ended up making about just over $85 million, which is about $218 in adjusted dollars. So this film did really well for itself, making about $1.8 million per finished minute.
So it did better than Thief, is what you're saying.
I'm saying it did.
All right. I think it's about time for us to rank it.
Let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel and make sure you sign into your account there and start ranking movies with us. And we'll see. I think this one, I'm a little bit worried about it. I'm not confident it's going to break the top 100.
I'm wondering if it'll break the top 200.
Ooh!
Because we're at 213. This would be our 214th. So let's see. All right, kicking it off. Stripes versus Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh Brother.
Oh Brother.
Yeah, starting off.
Indeed.
Sadly.
Stripes or The Sandlot? I will say Sandlot.
You will?
Oh, yeah. Much more fun to watch that movie.
Okay. Sandlot.
Stripes or Escape from New York?
Stripes.
I will watch Escape from New York.
No, you will not.
Watch this.
Not if I have my way. Not if I have my way.
Well, let's find out then.
That was not a great experience, Andy.
I would so much rather watch it than Stripes, though.
Here we go. 1.
Okay, 1,
2, 3. Paper. 1, 2, 3. Rock. 1, 2, 3. Rock.
Oh, there you go. All right, Stripes or 1958's The Blob. I'll say The Blob.
I won't say The Blob. I won't say The Blob, and I don't feel like you've been overtly generous this ranking yet, so we're going to have to do it again.
No, I'll give you Stripes.
Oh, really? Okay, you've just earned yourself some points.
I'm being generous now.
All right, there you go.
Because, I mean, Bill Murray does have some funny moments. And
Steve McQueen is not as funny as Bill Murray.
I will give you Stripes just for the Razzle Dazzle.
Also delightful.
Absolutely.
All right.
Stripes or Murder by Death?
Murder by Death.
I would pick Stripes.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I just really didn't care for Murder by Death.
I will give you Stripes on this one. I have no problem with it.
Oh, Stripes or Say Anything. I will do Say Anything.
I will do Say Anything too.
Stripes or Gone with the Wind? I'll say Gone with the Wind, despite the issues.
No, I'm Stripes all the way.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to do it here.
All right. Here we go.
Right. 1, 2,
3, rock.
paper.
Godfrey Daniels, this is terrible.
Oh my, Stripes or Labor Day. Reitman versus Reitman. This is great.
I'm Stripes.
I'll give you Stripes. I would pick Labor Day, but I'll give you Stripes.
Because at this point, really?
At this point, it doesn't matter, yeah. 193 out of 214.
It beat 200.
It came close, though, yeah. If I had my way.
This, I think it just demonstrates kind of the hold that these Harold Ramis joints have on us, like on our memory. And I think I probably, given when he was making these films, I saw them when I was at a very impressionable age, and I remember them as much funnier than they were, consistently funnier than they were. It's a film with some great moments and some great character bits, but they're few and far between, and the last hour just sinks it.
It's a shame, because I was hoping to get a lot more out of this than I did, especially because I do, like I said, I have friends who really, really love this film.
Yeah.
I just, for me, it's just one of those that I'm like, I can pass. I've seen it now. Check it off the list. Don't need to see it again. The bits that I did enjoy, those are ones that I could go back and just rewatch on YouTube if I felt like it.
There you go. Where do we go from here as we wrap up our Harold Ramis series?
We are going to be ending this with National Lampoon's Vacation, which I'm very much looking forward to. I've always loved this one, and I've seen it somewhat recently, not as recently as you did, and I'm hoping that my experience doesn't change like yours did last time you watched it.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it again, and I actually hope that it changes back. I'm sort of I'm gonna be optimistic about that. I'm worried.
I guess we'll find out next week.
What's your letterbox ranking on this one?
I gave it 2 stars. I feel like I kind of feel like it's actually a little generous. I feel like 1.5 is probably where I'm at, but I'll leave it at 2.
I'll give it 2.5, and we'll feel good about 2 if you give it 1.5. How about that?
Well, there you go.
All
that
right.
makes me happy.
All right.
Cool.
That's it. I gotta go to bed.
All right. Got some mud wrestling to go do in the backyard.
I've got one from Mr. Math Expert. He gives it a well-considered 3 stars. Hoo-ha! This is you. This is the you is Army. The name of his review. Title of his review. There's absolutely no way in the history of armed services that this group of ragtag buffoons would have passed inspection and be deemed fit for military graduation. When I saw Bill Murray doing that ridiculous military parade, I sort of questioned if the United States Army sponsored the film Stripes, and they actually did. It's hard to believe that after 10 weeks of boot camp, the group hasn't gotten used to the routine. Anytime you see a Bill Murray picture, always expect unorthodox results. However, 2 things will result with Bill. Either he'll be a genius for his bone-dry humor, or he'll be an arrogant jackass. In Stripes, he's the latter most of the time. Probably the funniest scene of the film is the getting to know each other part. It's hilarious. After military graduation, Stripes falls apart, gets ludicrously ridiculous. I don't understand why they had to go to Czechoslovakia at all and engage in warfare with these soldiers to retrieve an RV. I agree we didn't talk about that sequence specifically, the getting to know you part, but it ends up being, everybody in that scene makes a lot of sense and is good sort of subtle comedy until Bill Murray starts speaking, and then it's a complete mess.
Yes.
I remember it as being really funny, but when I stopped to actually sit down and listen to it, it's just not.
It really isn't. It just feels disconnected. So.
Really disconnected, yeah. Too bad.
Well, I've got a 1 star by Leslie, RN. It's good to know that she's there for our medical needs.
Yeah, in case you need help.
She said it's a washout, saddened by Bill Murray's performance. That's very interesting that it actually made her sad. The storyline also lacked any punch. A total washout, and do not recommend. So, there you go.
Yeah.
It just made her straight up sad. Interesting.
Yeah, too bad. Well, thanks, Amazon.
It is hard to believe we have been having in-depth conversations about movies since 2011.
You are telling me. Producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
Season 5 had some great adaptations, like our Meryl Streep Oscar-nominated performances series. We covered adaptations like Kramer vs. Kramer, Sophie's Choice, and The French Lieutenant's Woman.
It's a real Sophie's Choice between those books. You see what I did there?
Yeah. And I don't think it's quite at the level of a real Sophie's Choice.
We also did Snowpiercer for our Bong Joon-ho series, adapted from the French graphic novel Le Transpersonnage. Man, I love that movie.
We had our two-part 1939 series that included adaptations like Gone with the Wind, Ninotchka, The Women, and The Hound of the Baskervilles.
A number of those 1939 movies, like Goodbye, Mr. Chips, also tied into our recent 1940 Academy Award Best Picture nominee series.
Our naughty children horror series had creepy adaptations like The Bad Seed, Village of the Damned, The Innocents, and Children of the Corn.
For our Hayao Miyazaki series, we talked about his take on Lupin III with the Castle of Cagliostro, plus his own The Wind Rises.
Some great listener choice picks too, Viridiana and The Great Escape.
And for our David Mamet Wright series, The Verdict, The Untouchables, and Glengarry Glen Ross.
Plus, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang from our Shane Black series adapted from Brett Halliday's novel, Bodies Are Where You Find Them.
Dive into the sources for all of these at thenextreel.com/originals.
Every book you buy helps support the show. Check out thenextreel.com/originals today and find your next read.